Welcome to The Advocate, a program that thrashes out all the topical issues of the day.
When you are in government, you don't see nothing wrong with whatever is happening. The moment you are out there, everything is wrong.
You can't even see many women now, and when they're there, they're not even really making a mark, and then they have an NYSC problem and this and that.
One of the reasons why we don't have more women in politics in Nigeria is for as long as political meetings continue to take place in the middle of the night.
Exactly.
Really disastrous for a president
to even say
be unaware of the chief
It's
justice.
a ploy. It could be a strategy.
That strategy was very terrible strategy. Because the buck stops at your table.
Whether it's that we don't look after our cities, and quite frankly, Nigeria is becoming a very ugly place.
When you are the only one feeding the people with this news, and there is nobody countering them, it becomes, the news.
You're watching The Advocate on Plus TV Africa. Time to vent, pure and simple. And I'm calling this death by corruption. As a Nigerian living in Nigeria, there are many stories and occurrences that infuriate, anger and discombobulate me daily. But the last time my vexation meter rose to this nth degree was the kidnap of the Chibok girls. Today, I dedicate the privileged access of this platform to the memory of 26-year-old Adewura Latifat Bello and others like her who have met with premature deaths at the dawn of their lives. On the 15th of May this year, news broke that Adewura was missing. A graduate of accounting, Adewura had called her sister on the way home from work to inform her that she was almost home. That would be the last time our family would ever speak to her. Last Sunday night came the devastating and gut-wrenching news that Adewura's body had been found in a canal in an area called Cement in the Yanokpaja axis of Lagos State. So what happened? While close to home on that fatal Wednesday, Adewura hopped on a commercial bike known as Okada. For our viewers watching abroad, please note that we are currently in the raining season in Nigeria. So although sporadic, we've still had occasional storms. Unknown to Adewura and the biker, ahead of them in the dirty flood waters they were trying to cross was a death trap in the form of an uncovered manhole. They fell in. Whisked away by the water current, Adewura would meet her demise. There is no doubt in my mind that Adewura was killed by selfishness, fraud, wickedness, greed, sloth, gluttony, and ultimately negligence. Like many Nigerian children, her life was cut short by a total lack of care, abandonment, and woeful neglect. She was killed by Nigeria and her successful federal and local government since independence. Adewura was killed by corruption. I wish I could say her death would serve as a lesson to ensure such a tragedy doesn't befall us again. But you and I know that would be a blatant lie. Today, I mourn for all mothers, fathers, aunties, and uncles. I mourn for all those whose relentless and tenacious spirits have been stolen by this country. I mourn the ghost of futures truncated by a repetitive and habitual culture of socio-political serial manslaughter. For goodness sakes, I want answers. Someone has to pay. We cannot continue to stand by while those in power continue to play Russian roulette with our lives. Surely, enough is enough. I'm done with asking, pleading, voting, campaigning, and protesting for better leaders. Today, my demand is simple. If you can't do the job we appointed you to do, the very least you can do is to stop your murderous actions.
Too right. Too right. I mean, this reminds me of, these containers that keep falling
on the bridge.
That keep falling on other vehicles and killing people on a regular basis. And yet nothing seems to be done. Only, I think it was a month ago, or maybe slightly more than that, just across the road from me, so much commotion, only to find that a container had fallen on a car, which had like 3 or 4 people in it, and they all perished. Oh, gosh. And is anything going to be done by...
It's serial manslaughter.
What's going to happen? Nothing. Nobody gets...
nothing. Nobody loses their jobs.
Nobody loses their job, nothing. So, I mean, I think what we're looking for now is that somebody has to pay. Because if people don't pay, nothing gets done. And then we'll just carry on. So, absolutely. I mean, I just really don't have anything to add. But I really feel hopeless, helpless, because I feel like this is just something that
Dejected.
continues to happen
I mean,
all the time.
when you say someone has to pay, clearly, I mean, like some of the reasons Ireti gave in her write-up tell you where to point the finger
Yeah,
at.
but-
However, you know, when I was thinking about it, I'm not even sure how to add all these things together. You have, I was discussing it with some of my colleagues, and they say some of these local boys come and take away the covers from the
So we
manholes.
read.
You
Even
know,
then,
to
not
melt
good
it
enough.
down, and
Not
you know,
a
they
good
leave them
enough
exposed.
argument.
That's another one. The other one that occurred to me is that we also take risks with our lives. I'm not saying that that justifies the government not doing their part, because definitely you have to hold them primarily responsible. But yesterday I was driving, and this lady at a roundabout juncture, she was running across with the baby in her arms, and I'm thinking, any one of the cars coming could kill you. Why are you taking this risk? You see motorbikes going in opposing direction. I just try to think, that motorbike guy, that time of night with the flood waters, should he really have done that? You know, because apparently they had to fish him out. He survived, barely. But she was carried away. So the story goes like that. So why do we take those risks? You know, the government don't care enough
But
to
people,
look after us,
human
and we
beings
don't
take
care
risks
enough.
in other parts of the world.
But
And it's a government. There is a government.
But we're more
there.
exposed here.
No,
because, for example, you have a canal that doesn't have a barrier.
Because of corruption. If you think about it, we were debating it earlier. Since 1960, all the abuse that's continued to happen to this country, the constitution that continues to let the people down. You can't say, like Liberos was saying, the system and the people are not divorced from each other. Okay. So if people, is a conditioning, there's a physiology and the psychological aspect to it. Why is it that people feel they have to cross? Why is it that nobody's ever been taught? No, nobody's ever been taught zebra crossing in Nigeria. Why is it that those overhead bridges are way far from
Even
each
the
other?
zebra
The
crossings are
list
very
is
dangerous
endless.
in Nigeria.
So are you saying-
Because nobody knows,
So
understands
what are you
it.
saying? I'm trying to understand.
What
Is it
I am
different to
saying
what
is,
I'm saying?
ultimately, look, we human beings, we're fallible, right? People will break laws. That's why you have lawyers,
the law
right?
people should
So,
do-
but the government
lawmakers,
still have a response. I don't care. If a new area boy comes every day, every 2 hours to come and remove that cover, the council should have known that was a problem and should have done something
Well, okay,
about
but
it.
the other angle I'm coming at it from is that while we're campaigning,
Let's not blame
while we're
the
campaigning for there's a point there I'm making. While we're campaigning for government to do their part, which we need to keep doing, we also need to take care of ourselves and not take unnecessary risks. Like this morning, I know that sometimes I take the risk of texting and driving. I shouldn't. You're in traffic. And I said to my children this morning, that's it. No more texting and driving. And I did it deliberately so that they hold me accountable. Because the country, you may be driving safely and someone comes from the side.
It's terrible what we're going
What
through.
we're going through.
Let's not,
It's terrible, but I think
let's
the
not
things we cannot
unnecessarily put burden on ourselves. The essence of government is the fact that we collectively relinquish our individual rights and donate, to some persons,
To
in
look after us.
return
Yes.
for protection across
Yes.
the board. Protection, including information dissemination.
Information dissemination, that's exactly
Including,
right. Yeah.
So why will people take Okada in the first place?
If they could get to their house.
Of something.
Yes.
Better public transportation.
Exactly. And
Why
so
should there be
why
flooding in
should
the
there
first
be
place?
flooding in those areas if you have proper drainages? They will blame people that how people don't
Yes.
flood the canals. But if it's an offense to flood canal and you have used certain persons as example, nobody will
Nobody
do
will
that.
do it.
If it is an offense when you steal government properties and
Yes.
create manhole,
Yes.
and then you use persons as example, nobody
Exactly.
will steal.
And for as long as we continue to pay our taxes, go and clean that canal
when we
every
create
day.
excuses
I'm not
for
against
them,
holding government accountable.
and so that's why you see
we mustn't
government
put
at the
ourselves at
local
risk.
level is dead in
Nigeria, yes.
And
Local
so you
government.
find the
That's what-
state government will take that responsibility, and when they know they cannot, in all honesty,
Deal with it.
Deal with it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so you find out that what is happening when people, pay with their lives over somebody's negligence, and then we create that excuse of, you should have been more careful. What you're telling that person is,
It's your fault
it's your
that
fault.
you died.
No. Don't get me
That's
wrong.
what you're
I
saying. by
agree.
extension.
No. Don't get me wrong.
Sorry, quickly. I agree that yes, we also need to be careful,
have to,
most
because the
especially
situation is as
in
it
the
is.
society that
it's
we
common
live
sense.
in. But being careful does not mean that we shouldn't call out those responsible
course.
for
Listen,
us.
I
you
dare
must.
say that
Of course you
I
must.
dare say that
And I like-
Adewura, right? I dare say that the motorcyclist that was taking her
was very careful.
No,
No, he wasn't.
there
No,
were
it
very
wasn't
many
taken
careless
away.
motorcyclists.
He was just able to, they helped him out.
No, you don't get me.
The
I don't
reason
think
why
he
we
rode,
have
he
to
didn't
keep
ride
our
into a
focus
man.
on
You don't know
government
that because
is, for
motorcyclists are
instance,
notorious.
Let's,
And then-
let's just look at
What I'm
a normal road that has potholes. When there's a flood,
Thank you.
can't
You can't
see
see the
pothole.
pothole.
And that
That in
immediately
itself.
creates a problem, and it can cause the manners of accidents.
My friend lost her
death,
leg
whatever.
because of it, actually. She
and
had to
so-
go through physio.
And in some cases, you find out that even some of these motorcycle riders, I have a teacher, my maths teacher in secondary school, ended up as a motorcycle rider because he was sacked, and he got knocked down by a vehicle, and that ended his life. What will happen to the children? So there are a lot of things
it's
that
terrible.
government needs to do that they are
I've
not
got a question for
doing.
Libby, though.
And then I like the fact that this is coming from Ireti, because also what I'm saying, I like the fact that it's coming from, because during the election, Ireti was one of those that will create
I voted
excuses
for. I didn't create
for
excuses. I
local
voted for.
government.
No,
and
not
all
local
of
government.
that.
I voted
And
for
I like the fact that
APC.
it's coming now, because when some of us see, we expect so much from government. I'm not one to make excuses for them. If there is something that President Buhari is supposed to do and is refusing to do,
Absolutely.
I call him out.
No, but
Yeah, but that doesn't
sorry,
mean
let
that
me,
you didn't
let me
want him out.
clarify.
But I've got a
sorry,
question.
Ireti, bear with me. Let me just clarify. The fact that you're saying that what I'm saying is not an excuse by any means.
No, I'm not
because I
talking
believe,
about
no,
you.
you're
I
saying
just-
let's not make excuses for them.
No, I'm talking about
Earlier
Ireti
on,
and all those
but
our
it doesn't
campaign
matter. But
days.
I'm still saying that I still want to say the government doesn't care about us clearly, and that's what we're pushing for. We must try and care a little more for ourselves.
We
where
do
we can.
care about ourselves.
No, that's not what I see. The
People
way
have to
Nigerians take risks.
People have to
We take
survive.
risks. We take risks.
If your
And I'm
house is
maintaining
across
that.
the flood, how are you going to get across
I don't know, but I see that on average Nigerians take risks.
When you have
my
it can
girlfriend is
happen,
middle
no.
class.
By the time
you leave
My
here,
girlfriend
you'll
is middle
that's why I
class.
gave
She was driving in the same flood that you said.
It can
She
happen,
fell.
no.
Her
No,
car
that's why I
went
gave the
into a
example.
pothole. She lost
But
her neck.
Ireti, you
She
have
has
to let
go
me.
physio.
You have to let
But
me
you did.
make my point. That's why I gave the example of the lady who ran across the road with her child. We take
Yeah,
risks.
I agree
it's
with
clear
you,
to me
but
we take
sometimes
risks.
even
we
it
do,
happens
but it's
to
not to the
the
level.
best of us.
us.
Chapter 2 of the Constitution, these are the fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy. Because these rights are not justiciable, you find out that government just looked the other way. But what government did, what the courts did in India, it took somebody to approach the court, and the court said, look, whether they are justiciable or not, you owe that person, a right. And so since that right had been breached, you need to pay damages.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, yes, that was, it was emotive for all of us. And irrespective of what Ekene said, I know she feels just as passionate as I do about what's going on and what's happening to our citizens. Anyway, if we don't say enough, then who will? After the break, Liberos looks to the future, I would say, with cautious optimism. Is there such a thing in Nigeria?